Welcome to AfriMind. Today we have Eric Kacou. Eric is the founder of ES Partners. Eric has worked not only in the private sector but in the public sector as well. He is one of the people who's worked with the government of Rwanda and has helped with the, what we've seen as the economic transformation in Rwanda. He's worked with many other governments, my country, Nigeria, Mali, Burundi, and where he currently is, Haiti. Eric has been recognized as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum, and he's also an Archbishop Desmond Tutu Fellow. So thank you very much for having us here today.
Thank you, Amaka. Thank you very much.
I just read your book. One thing I wanted to understand, I like the fact that you focused on case studies of successful business models in Africa. And one of the things I was wondering as I was reading it was, what is it about your background or, your work experience that made you write that book? And can you explain more about the book to people?
Yeah, so I think I've been extremely privileged at a relatively young age to have been involved in some pretty amazing stories. And I felt like as a witness to some of the transformations, I think you mentioned Rwanda, which is a country that I hold dear to my heart, but other businesses and entrepreneurs that I've seen that are doing amazing stuff. I felt like I had a duty to share some of the things that I had learned. And I also thought it was really important to tell that story because it occurred to me that the solution that the world is looking for as it relates to how to help Africa create prosperity was hiding in plain sight. I think it's just a matter of us capturing that solution and making it available. And I felt like as an African that cares about development and prosperity, I had to do that, which is the reason why I wrote the book.
Okay. One of the things you focus on in the book is changing mindsets. I found that very, very interesting. And the question is, why do you think changing mindsets is important? And secondly, and which is probably the most difficult part, how do you go about changing mindsets?
I think changing mindsets is important in as much as the mindsets we hold inform the actions we take, which inform the world we live in. So for us to assume that we can change the world without changing the way we think about things really doesn't make sense. And I think all industries and all economic activity, which is about really making sure that people procure product or service, whether it is buying a car, wearing some clothes, watching TV, it's all about finding a way to convince the person that it's the right thing to do, which is about, somehow impacting the mindsets. I think in the development conversation, mindset is really something that hasn't been tackled because it's messy. As you said, people don't know how to change it. And I think to a certain extent, it's so close to the essence of what it means to be human that sometimes we are worried to really address it. And to me, I felt like we had to talk about it because everywhere you've seen amazing transformation, it's really about people that have decided to approach things differently. And that begins with having a mindset that's different.
So if you had to change someone's mindset, or how would you go about doing so?
Look, I think there are a few things that can be done. There is quite a bit of research. I think we sort of look at the whole issue of mindset change as if it were a black box. That's not true. I mean, if you look at the work that has been done in public health, especially around HIV/AIDS, and some of the progress that you've seen in that particular field, it's about it's about changing mindset about some of the most taboo subjects in the world. And I think if it can be done in social marketing, if it can be done in pure marketing, there is no reason why we shouldn't use the same thing for entrepreneurship and for development. I think the techniques are the same. It's about role modeling. It's about saying some specific messages. It's also about changing some of the incentives and structures. I mean, literally, I think the way the law works can have an impact on, what we do and how we think. And so I think there are a number of reforms that can be done. But to me, it's not as complicated as it sounds. So often it starts with just having an example, which is the reason why in my book I focus so much on case studies, because I thought those examples would make it real for everyone.
One thing you also talk about is the survival trap.
Yes.
And you say lots of African businesses are stuck in this survival trap. What is the survival trap?
You can think of the survival trap like a vicious cycle where we become so overwhelmed by things that are happening to us on a day-to-day basis that we become reactive and we try to address them. It's like I wake up in the morning, I have a meeting I'm supposed to go to, and my car won't start, or my phone is not working, or my kid is sick. I think if you can think of the kind of mindset, the frustration you get, and how all of a sudden all that matters is to get that car to start, or is to get a way of calling the person or take your kids to the hospital, you have been in a survival trap. And the issue is, it's always there, it's here to stay. What's important is that regardless of the amount of emergencies that we have to deal with, we can really take the time to think of what our vision is and go back to the essence of what we stand for. And to me, I thought it was really important to diagnose that particular issue, because it's really one of the core issues that I've seen. I feel like we have an epidemic or a pandemic of emergencies in our countries. We are always dealing with what is urgent, and as a result, we focus on what is urgent, and then we forget what's important.
Long term.
And we can't really build businesses, we can't really change society, we can't really prosper unless we are able to really address some of the root causes, which is where escaping the survival trap is so important.
One thing I see is that we've had a shift from, before, where people used to focus on the government as an instrument for development, as a key instrument for development, and now you go to conferences and everybody's talking about entrepreneurship, business, private sector. Do you think the pendulum has swung too far?
Actually, I don't think it had swung nearly far enough.
Okay.
Because I think it's one thing to talk about it at conferences, it's another thing to act on it. I mean, if you look at where the resources are going even today, I think a lot of the resources are still going to traditional government-led, top-down type programs, and I think that still has to change. I mean, my belief is that when you're facing a problem, it's really important to use and or leverage the best tool to solve that particular problem. If what you are suffering from is a toothache, go to a dentist. If the problem is about trying to create prosperity, let's go to the people that have a track record at creating prosperity. And it is entrepreneurs the world over. So Africa is no different, developing countries are no different, gravity still applies. We have to find a way of working with entrepreneurs. So to me, that's really the core of the issue.
Okay.
But it's not enough to talk about it. I think what's even more important is to identify real businesses and business models, as you said, to make this a reality. And this is the reason why ES Partners does what it does, and this is the reason why I also wrote the book.
Okay. So just following up from that point, you've worked a lot with companies in different sectors and in different countries as well.
Yes.
Let's pick some winners. So if you had to pick, what country do you think we should watch out for, and what industry should we watch out for?
So countries to watch out for, and when you say let's pick some winners, I love the letters, because I think it's not just me, it's basically all of us. Because I think the people that I will, or countries that I will cite, or industries that I will cite, are places where there is consensus. I think Rwanda is a very good example. I think Rwanda is really doing what very few countries have managed to do, which is growing and achieving social equity at the same time. I think in February of this year, I think it was 2 months ago, there was a report that was commissioned by the Center for Global Development at Oxford, along with the World Bank and the UN, where they assessed that about 1 million Rwandans over the past 5 years had been lifted out of extreme poverty.
Wow.
That's quite impressive when you think that, last week, the commemoration of the 18th genocide really happened. So to me, it's really, 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 really something that's quite impressive, being able to have economic growth, being able to, at the same time, change the lives of the most vulnerable part of the population through sound leadership, through an entrepreneurial approach, through belief in products, tourism, coffee, ICT, through a different mindset. And to me, that's really, if it's possible at the heart of Africa, I think it's possible not only in Africa, but I would say beyond Africa, in other parts of the world. So I think Rwanda is definitely a country to watch. In terms of industries to watch, I think it's a little bit more difficult. But I would say I am biased towards technology.
Okay.
Because I believe that technology can be the greatest equalizer that we have, because a number of the market failures that we have, whether it is lack of access to finance, whether it is infrastructure that don't work, if we can have technology, it is one of the tools that can help solve some of those issues. I think we've seen it quite a bit, for example, with the role that cell phones have played through M-Pesa. We are also seeing it quite a bit with platforms which are helping with governance and better elections, etc. But I think we haven't seen everything that technology can do for the continent. And if you consider that over 70% of Africans are less than 21 years old, I think the best of it is still to come.
Fantastic. So thank you very much, Eric. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for having us.
You're most welcome. Thank you.